That's my favorite gorilla, Kanyoni. I knew him, he was basically born the year that I started working as a first vet for the Uganda Wildlife Authority in 1996. And when he grew up to lead the group, when his father died in 2012, his father died when he was around 50. Gorillas can live quite long. He took over the group, but because he was so used to, playing and, showing off in front of tourists, he used to try and frighten tourists to see their reaction. And of course, many of them would get really scared, as it was just a big playful silverback. Unfortunately, Kanyoni died in 2017, not because of human disease, but because he fell off a tree and never got better in spite of treatment. And then he got into a fight with another silverback, Mariah, who took over Mubare Group. It was all natural things that happen in the natural gorilla world, but because he was so popular, when I shared a post on Facebook, a tribute, we got over 300 shares, because so many people had got to meet Kanyoni. But Bwindi is, I'll start off by talking about the threats before I get into responsible tourism, because it's all tied together. When tourism began in Bwindi, habitat loss stopped, almost stopped, it got reduced, because the forest was being cut so much. But when tourism began in 1993, people were given a reason not to cut the forest, because many of them got jobs. Most of the park staff were hired from the local community. People could sell crafts, accommodation, food, and there was no need to cut the forest anymore. So tourism saved Bwindi, I have to say. But the gorillas and other species are still threatened by habitat loss, because there's a very high human population growth around the park. And when you get there, I think most of you will see that hard edge around the park. And also poaching, not necessarily to eat them, because the Batwa who used to live in the park, it was bad luck for them to look in the eyes of a gorilla. So they never used to touch the gorillas. But when they cross over to go to other countries where people eat gorillas, let's say maybe DRC, where in DRC, if you eat a gorilla, you can become as strong as a gorilla. It's a cultural belief. Some of them have a risk for getting poached in DRC and other countries in Africa. But poaching is an issue when people poach duiker and bush pig, and gorillas get caught in snares. But also chimpanzees. Actually, this photograph was taken in Kibale National Park by a kind tourist, Dawn, and this was taken recently. So snaring is still a big issue. It's bigger in Kibale than it is in Bwindi. But when they accidentally get caught in snares, then they end up having, sometimes they can die and they lose their limbs. But disease transmission is the reason I really got into conservation. Starting out as a vet in the Wildlife Authority, one of the first cases we had to deal with was a scabies outbreak in the gorillas, which came from the people living around the park. This poor baby gorilla died, and the rest only recovered with treatment of ivermectin. Ivermectin treats scabies, but not COVID, just to let you know. And this photograph I took of these little boys, they were carved in goats outside the park, instead of being in school. And as long as you have many poor people like that, it's very hard for conservation to move forward. There have also been other diseases like rectal prolapse in the gorillas, and we didn't know if it came from picking up a human parasite. But all of this made us realize that as long as gorillas are going outside the park to eat people's banana plants, which they do once they lose their fear for people, they are very likely to be exposed to human disease and destroy the property of people, undermining conservation efforts. So we founded conservation through public health in 2003 with my husband, Gladys Kalema-Zikusoka, and Stephen Rubanga, a vet technician. And that's the view from our forest. What a lovely office view. From our office, you can see almost the whole of Bwindi, from Kanungu district. You can see all the end to Kisoro, where there's Nkuringo. And inside this forest, you don't only have the gorillas, obviously you have over 300 species of birds. In fact, I find that a lot of the ranger guides are more interested in birding than gorillas, I have to say. And you also have over 200 species of butterflies, chimpanzees, elephants, pangolins. We've released some there, duiker, bush pig. So all kinds of species. An important forest and an important water catchment area and climate modulator.